On April 2, 2026, during a primetime address regarding the ongoing conflict with Iran, U.S. President Donald Trump issued a very specific warning. He explicitly promised to bomb the country back to the Stone Ages. Within minutes, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth echoed the sentiment on social media with a 4-word post, "Back to the Stone Age." It is a threat directed at a nation that established advanced irrigation, modern currency, and vast highway systems more than 1,000 years before the United States existed. To force a highly developed nation into a primitive state requires the systematic destruction of its modern identity. The logistics of this process involve the total eradication of major energy grids, cellular telecommunication structures, pharmaceutical factories, and medical facilities. Under international humanitarian law, targeting civilian objects is a serious violation of the rules of war. When a strategy targets the structures of modern life, it moves beyond a conflict against a regime and becomes a war against a society. Reaching this state of total ruin relies on carpet bombing, the practice of dropping unguided munitions over wide areas to ensure no structure is left standing. This phrase entered the American military lexicon in 1965, popularized by U.S. Air Force General Curtis LeMay in reference to bombing North Vietnam. LeMay refined this doctrine during World War II, directing carpet bombing campaigns against Japanese cities that killed hundreds of thousands and leveled entire urban centers. By 1972, American leaders were executing this strategy at its highest intensity, culminating in the Christmas bombings of Hanoi and Haiphong. These campaigns destroyed civilian sites like the Bach Mai Hospital, proving the erasure of civilian infrastructure was a documented outcome of the military's goals. Over time, the looming threat of total devastation moved from a battlefield tactic into a primary tool of American diplomacy. In January 1991, U.S. Secretary of State James Baker met with Iraqi Foreign Minister Tariq Aziz. Baker used the Stone Age warning as an ultimatum to force an Iraqi withdrawal from Kuwait. The subsequent air campaign involved dropping thousands of dumb bombs that devastated Iraqi urban areas and civilian infrastructure. After the September 11th attacks, the U.S. government used similar rhetoric to recruit allies for the global war on terror. Senior U.S. official Richard Armitage reportedly issued a stark warning to Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf. His country would be bombed back to the Stone Age if it did not support the campaign against the Taliban. The most complete and brutal realization of this doctrine occurred during the Korean War, which established a benchmark for destruction. This data shows the extent of the damage. U.S. bombing destroyed 95% of North Korea's power generation capacity and more than 80% of its buildings. These figures represent the point where a modern society collapses. In Korea, the result was a nation left in ruins, with almost every town destroyed. Panoramic photos from the era show the physical outcome of this strategy, a modern city reduced entirely to ash and rubble. The United States has repeatedly used this threat as a diplomatic lever, backed by a historical record of systematically dismantling the development of other nations. In 2026, the war on Iran brought this rhetoric back to the forefront of U.S. foreign policy. In the first weeks of the conflict, more than 2,000 Iranians have been killed, and thousands of civilian sites, including schools and pharmaceutical factories, have been targeted. These strikes on civilian centers contrast with the claim that modern warfare is limited to precision attacks on military regimes. Attacking universities and medical facilities removes the distinction between a government and its people. This strategy represents a war levied against the broader Iranian society and its ability to function as a modern nation. When political leaders invoke the Stone Age, they are describing the systematic violation of the laws of war. History shows this phrase is an announcement of intent, a promise to erase the structures of modern life and the people who depend on them.